Good evening, lesbians, and welcome back to my channel. Tonight we're going to be talking about some new Monster High prototypes that were recently released. The photos were released, obviously. Obviously, the prototypes were not released. You know what I mean. So, the interesting thing about these prototypes is not only that they were the ones used on the Coffin Bean box, so these were our first looks at the dolls way back when, but also these pictures were shown a long time ago. I want to say it was during the summer leading up to G3 being revealed, but the dolls were totally censored and we couldn't see what they looked like at all. So it's kind of cool that we finally have the pictures without the censorship. So the dolls are visible, and I think because it's been long enough, we should be able to talk about these. So, yeah, here's to hoping my channel does not get taken down because I'm talking about these, so let's just begin. Let's do it. Starting off with Draculaura, I think this doll is most obviously one of the original Coffin Bean photo prototypes. If you don't know what I'm talking about when I say that, by the way, I'm referring to the prototypes that were used for the box art of the Coffin Bean playset. So all the dolls in these photos very closely resemble the dolls that we're going to be talking about today. Like, take a look at Draculaura, and then take a look at this Draculaura. They look exactly the same. I'm guessing some minor adjustments were made in Draculaura's face, like between this doll and during this photo shoot and the final doll. So I'm assuming that's why she looks so different. I don't know, Draculaura looks different here to me. I think that the differences are most clear with her, but another big difference is actually the joints of the knees. They have a square peg, which on the final G3 dolls, it's rounded. That's just kind of something I've noticed with every G3 doll. They all come with different articulation, different joints in the knees that create a rounded joint rather than the square one that G1 dolls have. I might have to show you guys an example of what I mean. In G1, the knee joints had this sort of square piece that you can see up at the top, a bit of a rectangular piece. It protrudes from the knee. It gives it a certain look. Meanwhile, the finalized G3 dolls, when sitting down, when their legs are bent in general, you do not see that piece because it's not there. It seems like, based on Draculaura's legs, they were originally going to use a joint more similar to the G1 dolls, just based on that square part that seems to be sticking out. I know that's such a minor thing to notice, but it stood out to me. I always like to scan these images very, closely to see if there's any major differences, and aside from Draculaura's face being different and her headband being unpainted, which, by the way, it is painted in these photos, so it does seem like minor changes were made between this and this. I don't know, just very minor stuff. Chances are that these are entirely different dolls. They're just made to look similar because usually prototypes are not just a one and done. I believe usually a couple are created. There's at least 2 or 3 hand-painted Frankie Stein, 2010 original doll prototypes floating around. I believe there was one that was in, the box, and there were 2 more that were found. So there's 3 total, and they all look virtually identical to each other. So chances are with the G3 prototypes, there are multiple of each doll floating around. But yeah, those are the only major differences that I see with Draculaura: her face, the headband, and the knees. Now we're on to Frankie, who again does not have that many changes. It's just the face. This doll more closely resembles their hand-painted prototype in my opinion. And of course the knees. They do still have the different knees that the final dolls did not have. Also, the logo looks kind of golden, but I'm assuming that's just from where the photo's being taken because it's reflective. Because Draculaura's looks more silver. Again, super minor stuff. I'm just trying to see if any differences are there. It's really interesting how far along these prototypes are. They're basically done. Comparing Frankie to their appearance in this photo, yeah, that looks like the same doll. Their hair is styled the same. It's not held back at all because they're just posing the dolls in the box to decide how they're going to be posed in the box, I'm assuming. I don't know. But yeah, overall, not much of a change here with Frankie. On to Lagoona, who, again, similar to Draculaura, has much more visible changes, but not where you would expect. I personally don't really see a difference between Lagoona's prototype face at this stage and the finalized doll's face. They look virtually identical to me. I know there's like a couple differences here and there, like the intensity of the scales on her forehead, and maybe just like, I don't know, like line weight around the eyes, I would say, just because, again, hand-painted prototypes and the final product produced at factories are never exactly the same. But they did really well mimicking Lagoona's face, like the prototype face and the factory face. I don't know. Like, this doll I could totally see being on shelves in terms of the face, because it looks exactly like the ones that were on shelves, if that makes sense. I don't know. I think I might just sound like I'm saying words. The biggest change here is obviously Lagoona's legs, and the shoes as a whole. They look very different. Different paint was used. So something people immediately noticed in these Coffin Bean photos is that Lagoona's legs were transparent. On the final doll, they're foggy, instead of being like fully clear and see-through the way the prototype dolls are. It was really cool, and that's still present here. Lagoona's legs do not seem to be properly attached. There's like a bit of a gap between like the joint, like between the knee and the rest of the leg, the thighs. Like, I don't know, it looks like the legs are detached. That could also be due to the legs being made out of that transparent material, like that translucent, very clear material, because the pink part here seems to be painted on, which is obviously the case with the final doll as well, because when you do a transparent, like, limb like that, you have to make the limb out of that transparent material, and then if you want to do any ombre into a solid color, you have to paint that solid color onto the limb. That's what they do with Spectra, it's what they did with... Are there any other ghost characters who did that? I think it might have just been Spectra, and Invisibility. I forgot about Invisibility. So it seems like the same thing was done here with Lagoona, so I'm assuming if that clear plastic was used, most likely her legs are attached, but the plastic being clear gives it an illusion that they're not fully attached. Lagoona's shoes also look very different. I don't know, I think it might just be the color. I think Lagoona's shoes were pink on the final doll instead of being blue. Okay, so they weren't fully pink, but they're definitely a different shade of pink. It's more of like a corally color here than... Oh, her thing is different too. Her fanny pack, it's pink here, but on the final doll it was blue. I actually didn't notice that. Her earrings seem different as well. They're blue and... Oh no, they're always blue. Why did I think they were white? I think her hair clips tricked me. Yeah, overall, not that many differences, but this is 100% the same doll they used in these photos because her hair is styled basically the same way with the curls. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I just think that's interesting. It would have been nice if Lagoona did have those fully transparent legs, but I'm okay with the foggy legs that we got as well. Overall, I like G3 Lagoona a lot. It would be nice for this prototype to surface somewhere, maybe for sale. I would spend so much money to own the transparent like Lagoona prototype, I'm not even kidding. But yeah. And our final prototype is Claudine. So we have seen 2 Claudine prototypes previously, this being the one that I really want to resurface in full the most because she is so weird. I want to see this prototype so bad. But this is the completed G3 Claudine prototype. So one big difference I see between this and, like, the Coffin Bean doll also has this difference, but, like, between this doll and what was released, I would say is the makeup, because she doesn't seem to have that hint of blue eyeshadow that the final doll did. Her shoes also look a little different. I think that they're detailed differently, maybe a different shade. Yes, the shoes are a completely different shade of purple. They're more of a bluish purple here compared to the reddish purple that they were before. So, yeah, that is something I correctly identified. So, I'd say that's probably the biggest change, but looking at Claudine, she really looks like she's on a G1 body here. Like, with Draculaura, you can tell she's on a new body. Obviously, it's a prototype version of her G3 body based on the leg joints. Frankie also seems to be very clearly on a new body because they were given a new height. But Lagoona also seems to be on what looks like a G3 body, but Claudine, to me, her legs look like she's on a G1 body. Like, I don't know, the legs look very skinny, and you know the G1 bodies are much skinnier than the G3 bodies. G3 was given, like, somewhat kind of like slightly thicker builds for the standard body. It still looks very similar to G1, but I guess with like a shorter torso and obviously thicker legs and arms. But looking at Claudine here, she looks like she's on a G1 body. Like the knee joints are exactly the same as the G1 knee joints. Like the hands look smaller, they look like G1 hands. Obviously we can't see her body in full because she has her hair covering her arms and she's obviously not nude, she's wearing clothes. But comparing the legs especially, it looks like this prototype is using a G1 body. And again, it's interesting because in these photos, Claudine seems to have the G3 leg joint. She doesn't seem to be on a G1 body. But all the other characters still have the G1 leg joints. The reason Claudine doesn't stick out to me as being, like, having the G3, having the G1 knee joints is just because I don't see that square piece. Her legs are slightly bent and I don't see that square piece like I do with the other dolls. Like, it's visible on Cleo. Lagoona's legs are kind of hidden by the table, so I can't say it for sure. But Cleo very clearly has those square joints, and Claudine does not. So I don't know, it seems like a different body was used for this prototype. I'm not sure why. Maybe they only had one G3 Claudine body prototype on hand at the time when they took, like, this photo and this one. Maybe they weren't able to use the same doll? I don't know. This is why I like looking at prototypes. I just like to theorize about why certain decisions were made and, like, what changed, when and where. Like, it seems like such a small change for Claudine to have different colored shoes on her final doll, and it's the same with Lagoona. They both received, like, minor color changes. Again, Lagoona's fanny pack changed, Claudine's shoes changed, Lagoona's shoes also changed. They chose that brighter pink. Her backpack is also smaller. Lagoona has a much smaller backpack here. I totally forgot to mention that. Claudine, Frankie, and Draculaura's purses all seem pretty finalized. Okay, Draculaura's purse is small too. That is a very tiny backpack, and the cherry juice is huge. Like, look at that cup of cherry juice. It's bigger than the backpack is. That's kind of funny, actually. So yeah, obviously there's not, like, a ton of things to say about these prototypes, but I still think it's interesting to talk about them. These are clearly, like, early stage versions of the final products. Like, it's clear that the designs were pretty nailed down. They just made a couple minor changes. And there does actually exist a Cleo from this photo set. I couldn't find her right now, but the Cleo has a white leg, which goes to show that the bandage sculpt was new and they had not had time to make it in her skin tone yet. I still think that the molded bandages should have been like a slightly different color from her skin tone, but I digress. But yeah, these are the prototypes. I just find prototypes to be a very interesting topic, so I really wanted to talk about these. And I think I've said everything I wanted to. Again, I am really hoping that a full version of this Claudine prototype photo, like, resurfaces someday. Like, we've seen the full version of Draculaura. We've also seen a full version of Frankie, I believe. I actually don't remember if we've seen a full version of this Frankie. If we haven't, I want to see them. But yeah, I'm gonna call it there. I have said everything that I wanted to. I just love talking about prototypes and honestly could do it all day. But this video has definitely gone on long enough. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. And as always, I hope to see you in my next one. Also, remember to leave your thoughts in the comments below. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, I hope to see you in the next one. And yeah, bye!